Now, what have we done wrong? We've done all these great efficiency gains, but we can't claim any ROI. Why can't we do that? Because capacity released is not value captured. Just because we've made it easier for people to do things, just because they now have more time on their hands for higher value work, that is not ROI. ROI is business outcomes divided by your total cost of ownership. Business outcomes are revenue uplift, cost optimization, and reduced risk.
Hey, I'm Guy Powell, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. And if you haven't already done so, please visit prorelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. I am the author of the upcoming book, The AI Marketing Machine, and right now I have just put the first chapter up on the site. You'll be able to find it and let me know your feedback and comments. I'd love to hear what you think. The rest of the book is very, very close to coming out and more to follow here as we get ready for the launch date coming up in the next couple weeks. Today, I'm interviewing Shade Christian with Cloudera, and he is the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Cloudera. He's a former principal consultant designing and constructing enterprise data organizations for Fortune 500 clients. He's the head of data and analytics at Fortune 200 Molina Healthcare, currently CDAO of top 10 global data company Cloudera, where he advises customers pursuing AI at scale with meaningful ROI. He leads data management, data governance, BI, data science, and of course, AI. Welcome, Shade. It is so great to have you. Look forward to our discussion.
Before we go any further, a quick pause. This is important. Your sales force is one of the most expensive investments in your company. The real question isn't who's likely to buy someday, it's who should be called right now to create the most value. Traditional propensity models tell you who might convert. Our prescriptive modeling, called COPA, tells you who will convert because you called them. If you manage a large sales organization and want higher conversion, bigger deals, and better use of every rep hour, let's talk. If you want your sales team focused on the calls that matter most, visit prescriptivemodeling.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session.
Me too. Love the programming, love seeing what I've seen leading up to now, and happy to be speaking about these topics.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us what's your backstory on AI and marketing and all of this fun stuff that we're doing?
Well, I've been involved in AI for probably about 7 years, mostly machine learning, and doing it for enterprise level customers, meaning everybody internally in the organization, including sales, marketing, and finance, have had a real strong concentration in the past 2.5, 3 years on marketing because there's a lot of automation to be had there. There's a lot of AI assistance that the marketing team is ripe to reap.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tell us a little bit about Cloudera. What's Cloudera do, and what's your chief role and activities there?
Well, Cloudera is a top 10 global data company. We have 26 exabytes at last count of data
Mm.
under management. That's more than any other hyperscaler. So we develop software, data platforms that help you move data, store data, manage data, visualize data, and of course, uh, push data through AI, public and private models. And we have a lot of good times doing it. I am the Chief Data and Analytics Officer, which means internally, I utilize our products and services to generate business value internally, especially with AI. But because my team utilizes our products and services, I'm sort of a brand ambassador as well. So I do a lot of public speaking, a lot of article writing to let people know what we do and how to do it well.
Yeah, it's funny. If you're an enterprise client and you're on, let's say, the Cloudera platform, and if you want to move, you could have, I don't know, hundreds of terabytes of data, but then to move all that over to another provider, it's almost impossible. So once you make that first decision to go with Cloudera or somebody else, you're kind of stuck. Is that true? Or
Except for Cloudera, you are exactly correct because if you want to get off the hyperscalers, that comes at enormous cost. But with Cloudera, we operate on every platform, all three of the hyperscalers and on-prem. And so you write your workloads once, you run them anywhere in the world, and we're open source. So to get off of us is much easier, and to move us anywhere is much easier as well.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't realize that that was the case. And not that you're competing with ShareFile. I don't think you are, but so we're a small company and we use ShareFile, and we've got tons of data out there, and I don't know how I'd ever move. And be honest with you, well, I won't say anything negative about them, but I have been considering moving, and I don't think it's possible.
It is difficult to move between vendors, to your point, and expensive to move data, especially off the cloud or between clouds.
Now, what about getting past AI? Now, you're advising senior leaders at some point on and with some of the largest and most recognizable brands. What are those companies pursuing with AI?
It runs the gamut. I look at it as like a box, a grid, and if you're in the bottom left, you're typically experimenting, or you're really aspirational. You're thinking maybe and not doing it yet. And then if you go up to that next level grid, you're using AI to create productivity and efficiency gains. But those are typically role specific or function specific to the individual. So you're in the game. And I look at the lower right quadrant as being doubling down. You're now automating workflows, not just individual productivity gains. These are things like coding assistants to make software so much easier to develop and quick. I look at integrated marketing campaigns by using agentic AI in your CDP and CRM implementations. And then when I look at that top right quadrant, those companies are all in. They typically have an AI mandate. These are things like image detection for disease, autonomous vehicles, complex loan approvals. And I think we all want to be in that game-changing quadrant, but not all of us have the investment and not all of us have the stomach for the risks it takes to be there.
Well, and you mentioned risks. So I'm in sales and marketing, and one of the big challenges is PII and HIPAA data, of course, and just to be able to implement something that might have PII in it is really tough.
It is. We have Cloudera specifically, and myself. We have ways of getting around that so that we can remain data private and have a lot of data protection. The charter of my organization includes this statement where we employ a policy-driven AI approach, which means that we dynamically route workflows and workloads to public and private models based on data classification. So I can use a public model if I'm automating account research, for instance, because that's public data. But if I want to review and summarize legal contracts and provide redlining capability to my legal organization, well, I've got to embed models locally in my on-prem data center because I can't expose those to public models, right? Another way that we really keep data privacy is to embed AI in our workflow tools and our messaging apps, which we did last year. And we democratize those role-specific or function-specific use cases to our business users. And then we ensure that the contracts themselves extended data privacy controls to AI. So our whole goal is to reduce the level of AI risk down to the current level we already have with traditional AI and analytics. I think maybe a third thing that we do is we're very shy and sheepish about making our chatbots externally facing. We're still over a couple of years making sure that the reliability is there, that the hallucinations are cut to a minimum, because we don't want to expose AI weaknesses to our customers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and especially as you are a user of your own software.
Yeah.
Long time ago, in a land far, far away, we had a product that was more or less email, but it did a lot more than that. But we, as the vendor of that product, were never forced to use the product that we were selling. And I remember, I was a mid-level marketer at the time, and I remember talking about it. And I said, we have to be able to use this stuff so that we know what our customers are doing. And I really like, what you're doing, which is, not only are you selling these services, but you're using them. It sounds like you're one of the bigger users of what you're doing. So therefore, you have exactly a good understanding of what's going on and what are the challenges that your users are facing.
That's right. We call us customer number one. So we're typically implementing at GA, general availability, or even before, and catching those bugs and feature requests for our product organization to implement. And we have the single best influence on making our products great, which is a huge responsibility, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So, implementing, you mentioned it, kind of implementing, game-changing use cases, even maybe they're not game changing, but they're certainly getting you in the game. And for a lot of companies, that's really what they're trying to do. Uh, Tell us what you've seen for some of the trade-offs that the executive management needs to make and how they weigh the risk versus the potential rewards and the technical feasibility. How do you see all of that coming together and how those decisions are being made?
Yeah, I think that you first have to assess what your level of commitment is, right? So some people, like a bank customer we have in Asia, has an AI mandate that says everybody in the company is going to use it for market differentiation. And if you have that level of support, you're really going to use it well. If you don't have access to the boardroom or you can't influence them well, a couple of senior executives who understand AI and can partner with you is good enough. So your level of commitment's a big deal on where you can go and how you can apply AI. A second one for us is risk tolerance, right? So it's where can you use public versus private models and data? I talked about that customer-facing chatbot versus internal behind the firewall. So those are big trade-offs there as well. And tech feasibility isn't just about is AI capable of doing what you need it to do? AI is very capable. It's what about your technology, your talent, and your operating model? And so, how risky can we be? How capable are we? What level of commitment at what level of the org do we really have?
Yeah, and that brings up a really good piece. We've been talking, to some of our clients about implementing, a very heavy kind of an AI application. And, I guess one of the things that, is first in our minds is do we actually have the compute capacity to be able to do what we want to do, at the scale that we want to be able to scale that?
That is a problem everywhere. It's less of a problem for most of us at the mid-tier now. About a year and a half ago, it was very hard to get the NVIDIA chips. We have a great partnership with NVIDIA. I think that's becoming an easier reality for many of us, although the metas of the world still struggle to get
Hmm.
up enough data centers to do what they need to do.
Yeah, I could imagine, I mean, those are heavy, heavy super technology guys. We're more in our clients are more in the mid to lower top level and
Sure.
they're not looking at doing, major things like what Facebook might do. So well now, so for our marketers that are in the audience, give us a couple of use cases that you've seen for AI to support the workflow within marketing.
Well, my team specifically has targeted all three levels of business outcomes. So you start again with those productivity and efficiency use cases. My first AI app I ever developed was an integrated marketing campaign generator. So I took an article of mine and it would create a speech. It was uncanny, even the early GPT models of how they got my voice, create a blog, create these social posts. And my reach for my content grew about 300%. And I spent about 47% less time constructing those campaigns. So that was very effective. We quickly moved, though, to these workflow automation use cases. So instead of looking at one role or one task or activity, we look at the entire end-to-end workflow. And we've automated a couple at Cloudera. One is it's very important to us. It's a very different grid that we're in. We want to be in the Gartner leader group and Forrester Wave, right? But those questionnaires are as complicated as healthcare RFPs. And so to be able to understand those questionnaires with AI, to be able to respond even better than we have in the past, we've automated the majority of that workflow. And also customer success stories. So we want to be able to tell great stories about what our customers do with our products, right? And so currently we have an AI assistant that generates the interview structure. And once the interview is in the can, it will look at the footage and propose in and out points for the sound bites and what quotes go over what banner. And when our technology gets a little bit further along, not Cloudera's, but the marketplace, we're going to be editing those videos naturally through AI as well. And then you mentioned game-changing use cases. I think we have two for marketing specifically. One doesn't sound game-changing, but I think it is. We have software products, right? So we have cases where our customers will open up support cases and say, help us achieve this. And we have what's called a non-break fix close, which means there's something wrong with the product, but we had to explain to the customer how they might use it. And so we're now looking at when certain products are difficult to use for certain accounts and certain individuals. And we're signaling to marketing that those individuals may need training, so send them an offer, or they may need professional services. That's not so it doesn't have such revenue uplift that it's game changing in that respect. But look how far upstream we're looking for those signals to come downstream to marketing to get us new pipeline. The second one's very impressive, and it's kind of like my baby. It's called a natural language querying tool. And what right now, if you want to generate insights in marketing, you have to understand our data sets. You have to go to our lakehouse. You have to speak SQL or another machine language. You have to put a dashboard together, generate your pipelines. It takes weeks. But we now have this application that's very chat GPT like. You just ask the question, you get the response in text or tab. You also get a visual, which you then pin to the dashboard. And so you're able to create your own custom dashboards in minutes or hours instead of waiting weeks. And so that's a huge game changer for us, and that insights are surfaced much more quickly.
Quick pause. This is important for any marketing leader. Marketing must continuously prove its value or the budgets dry up. Marketing mix models provide that proof in a way finance and leadership can believe. And we at ProRelevant help teams answer critical questions. Which campaigns actually worked? Which channels really moved the needle? And where should the next dollar go? With over 20 years of experience across complex marketing environments, we know how to deliver clarity, not guesswork. To learn more, go to mmm.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session. And now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, and that kind of a dashboard too. We've been talking about, things like that. You think about the traditional Tableau or Click or whatever they are, and they give you important information, no question about it. It's great to be able to tie this to that and be able to see it visually and see the pie charts and the column charts and what have you, but it doesn't necessarily give you kind of like the ability to ask a strategic question and get a strategic answer. And as executives, that what we'd like to be able to do is kind of type in or speak into our dashboard and say, it's really interesting that in California, blah 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 is happening. What do you think we should do to fix that? And then to get an answer that comes out of it based on the data that's now been properly filtered and available and current and what have you. And that I think is, to your point, I think that is really the next level of what can be done.
Right. And Guy, we are surfacing intelligence. And what it means is, yes, dashboards in and of themselves don't always surface intelligence at all. Um, but there also have become just another system like your CRM or your ERP. It's another one of 200 places to go, even if you know where to go to find the data that you then need to turn into intelligence. So that example that I used of the cases that then provide marketing opportunities by individual and account are really surfacing intelligence outside of systems right at the moment of decision and opportunity.
Yeah, and I could imagine too that, I wanted to, instead of trying to look through, screens and screens and filters of dashboards, if I could, basically ask in a natural language way so tell me, where are the three areas that we're not doing so well, and where are the three areas that we are doing well, and why are we doing differently in those three, the three bad areas versus the three? good areas, and let that tool then really give me the insights that I need to be able to make a decision.
Yes, this is what we're working on. It's challenging to a degree. When we feed our NLQ tool a SQL and the Python code that we have, we know we have the right answers. But those complex questions that you just asked, they're a little more tricky.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Even though they're obvious, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, they're obvious to us, but nevertheless, if I had a way to be able to ask that question easily, that would be a a very interesting game changer. And I think we're close. I think we're really close.
Agreed, agreed.
Yeah, so one of the challenges, and I'm an ROI guy, and measuring ROI is it looks like it's very certain. I get an ROI of 45% or whatever, and it looks like it must be right. It's not 46%, it's not 43%, it's 40, whatever I said it was, 45%. And in reality, especially in marketing and especially in sales, that ROI is kind of a not a wishy-washy number, but certainly has some error bands on it. And but nevertheless, you want to be able to measure that an ROI that is meaningful and really takes into account short and long term kinds of implications and measurement. How do you see that so that you really make sure that you're hitting the mark and that the company is actually turning a profit and not sacrificing, I don't know, the short term versus the long term?
You're really orbiting what the core problem is, interestingly. First, you have to be able to scale AI to get meaningful returns. It used to be that we couldn't scale AI solutions and get past our POCs because our executives told us we got to experiment with AI right away. And we did. And we chose use cases that couldn't scale into production. They're meaningless. That's changed over the last year, year and a half, where now the primary impediment to get POCs into production and scale them is trust in AI, which starts with your data. Are you labeling it correctly? Do you have the business and technical metadata associated so that AI can understand what the answer is? And as you're doing that, how about getting AI to respond reliably? Giving AI the answers when you can, keeping a human in the loop. These are ways in which we'll develop AI trust. And so once you scale AI, now you can start to really measure returns. But let's get back to the trap that you were signaling early in your question. Leaders think of it just the way you described it. We're going to get 300% improvement in this, 90% efficiency in that. Those are the productivity use cases. Once we get to workflow automation, now we're going to reduce cycle time X%, turnaround time, compliance rates. Now, what have we done wrong? We've done all these great efficiency gains, but we can't claim any ROI. Why can't we do that? Because capacity released is not value captured. Just because we've made it easier for people to do things, just because they now have more time on their hands for higher value work, that is not ROI. ROI is business outcomes divided by your total cost of ownership. Business outcomes are revenue uplift, cost optimization, and reduce risk. So we have two choices when we get all of this percentage stuff that we talk about, right? We can make the choice that, like many tech companies have done this quarter, we can harvest our gains. There's a lot of layoffs going on. And that might be appropriate for tech companies to go get some inefficiency gains back. And that may spill over into other industries as well. But what I'm doing is reinvesting that capacity in higher value work. So I have, for instance, a data architect who can architect data sets in a fraction of the time that he used to, but now he's an AI engineer. He's a full stack engineer, and I'm getting higher value work. The account executive role, right? Once they were outreach and they were scheduling meetings and updating the CRM and doing the account plans, when I'm automating all of that for them. So in the future, perhaps they're more deal strategists for a whole portfolio of accounts than doing these lesser value tasks. And in my world, the data analyst role was the most impacted by this compression of the surface area that AI is causing us in data and analytics. But my data analysts know the business the best. They know the data the best. And so we're spending time putting them in the business in quarterly business reviews where they have access to our churn analytics algorithms, to our propensity to buy algorithms. And they're on the front lines in real time when intelligence is truly needed in the moment. And when they strike at that moment of opportunity, they're really becoming insight assassins of greater value to the business than they've been ever.
Yeah, yeah, and you bring up a really good point, and that is, you technically you're freeing up capacity in some fashion. And but you have to reap the gains and actually commit them to the bottom line. So okay, so I've got 20% more capacity in whatever function it is, but if I haven't made a change to the cost structure, or if I haven't been able to turn that into either something better for the brand or more revenue for the company, then I didn't get any ROI.
You didn't
And
get
I've
anything.
seen
Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, sorry. And I've seen that so many times as well. So yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, I report eventually up to the CFO, and I don't get anywhere with my percentage increases and downcreases. It's what cost have you taken out of the business? Where's my revenue going?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, well, in marketing at least, yeah, certainly there are cost savings, and even on the sales side, there can be cost savings, and the deal conversion speed might get higher, but the output then is hopefully higher revenue at the same cost, or the same revenue at lower cost. Normally, it's higher revenue at the same cost level, and or it's actually to justify more to spend more because I'm going to get more. And so it's interesting to see that certainly in any organization or any department within the organization. There are ways that you at some point you have to then reap the gains by cutting costs. So
You got to impact the top line, the bottom line, or improve customer experience to some measurable degree, or you're not really doing anything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of like I took physics in college, and I never liked this one statement, and that was if I walk from here I've been living in Atlanta. If I walk from, let's say, Atlanta up to Washington, D.C., and I walk back, I have done no work in a physics sense. And so, to your point, if I haven't reaped those gains, then I haven't done any work. I've just, I've got some free capacity, but the costs haven't changed and the revenue hasn't changed. So I haven't technically done any work in that sense.
I took EMAG at Georgia Tech of all places, and it was so hard that it was like 10 years later I came across the professor in a at a restaurant, and I nearly fainted from all the heartache. And now you're bringing all that back to me, Guy.
Yeah. So, is there anything else? Any other topics you want to talk about? Otherwise, we're getting ready to close. As much as I'd like to keep on going, what other things are on your mind today?
No, I just want to offer to answer any questions from your audience. Come back and clarify anything that they need. I'm here to give to my marketing and my sales group. We feel obligated to generate this ROI for them. And now being invited by you to participate with your audience, I'm happy to give them the same respect and field any questions that they have.
Yeah, fantastic. So I do have one last question before we
Okay.
close, and that is, what advice would you give an up-and-coming new marketer entering the AI era?
A friend, a daughter of a friend, interviewed me about 6 weeks ago. Was one of those layoffs I mentioned earlier, and my practical advice to her was, um, look at your job description in your last role and try your best through AI to automate it as best you can. And at a very minimum, when you're being interviewed for your next role, you can say, I was spending my time automating my old role that I no longer occupy. I think that empathy, judgment, system design thinking, AI governance, AI monitoring. These are all the skills of the future. And so the more you're using AI, even in your personal life or your aspiring professional life, the more you're going to be valued for those qualities. And those qualities are somewhat different than the people that will manage you have or were valued for in the past.
Yeah, that is very interesting. That is a very good way to look at it. And it forces the individual to understand how they can add value to what they were doing before by building that automation. And I like that answer. That's very good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so thank you again, and so great to have you participating today. Where can folks reach you and learn more about you and your company?
LinkedIn, Shade, Shayde. You won't find any other. It's pretty easy.
LinkedIn Shade, fantastic. Well, for the audience, definitely reach out to Shade. I'm sure he's got some really good advice for any and everybody. So fantastic. And Shade, thank you so much. And for the audience, definitely stay tuned for many other videos in this series of the backstory on marketing and AI. And definitely visit marketingmachine.prorelevant.com and you'll be able to download the first chapter of my book. And hopefully, you'll be able to see in a couple of weeks the full book, which will be available on Amazon and all the other places online. Shade, thank you so much. It's been really great to have you today.
Thank you, Guy.
Absolutely. Thank you.